Thank you for joining us today. I know that many of you are scattered about and are out of the office. I know everyone's time is very valuable. I know it's a weird time for a lot of people, but we appreciate you guys attending today and joining us. But welcome to the Drones and Oil and Gas webinar hosted by LinkedAll Aerial Solutions. We have some, I'm going to turn my webcam on. We have some fantastic presenters and panelists today. So today's agenda will consist of a product overview of the new MFE 300 RTK, as well as the H20 series camera. We will also dive in a little into the after-sales support services that are now newly offered by DJI, some really cool stuff. But this will then be followed by an open panel discussion with our esteemed guests, in which I will be moderating. Once again, we're super excited about today and the application uses that will be discussed. We also actually have a special world premiere of the new DJI video featuring our very own John Mcclain and the Shell Deer Park team. But feel free to ask any questions in the question tab throughout the presentation. We will hopefully get to them. If not, we have our contact information at the end where you can reach out and we'll get that answered for you. But we have a lot to get through today, so let's get started. All right, so I want to start off by introducing our panelists. I'll start with myself. My name is Cody Menchaca. I'm the sales manager at LinkedAll Aerial Solutions. We are a premier DJI partner who offers all things DJI related. Along with that, we offer a wide range of software, hardware, after-sales services, and accessories for all things UAS. Located in Houston, Texas, we're heavily focused on the energy, public safety, agriculture, and construction verticals. Next up, we have Cynthia Huang, the head of business development at DJI Enterprise. She comes from an extensive background in all robotics and automation field. As being the head of the energy vertical at DJI, she has extensive knowledge of the industry as a whole. I'm very proud to have her here today. Let's see, our product overview presenter today will be Francisco Toro, a solutions engineer expert at DJI Enterprise. Francisco has a vast amount of expertise on the hardware and is also the energy vertical partner when it comes to development of new products. He has a great deal of knowledge when working with energy partners. We also have Jason Acerbi, the general manager of MFE Rentals with 14 locations worldwide, the provider of all things RVI, UAV, NDT inspection equipment for rent or purchase. Jason comes with over 15 years of in the field inspection experience. Level 1 thermographer and level 2 NDT across the board, brings a vast knowledge of the industry as a whole. Next, we have John Mcclain, chief pilot at Shell Deer Park. Starting in 2016, John has been developing the Drone Aerial Response Team, also known as the DART program, on site, which consists of a team of pilots that do all things from securities to data collection. John's program is one of the leaders in the industry today. We've been excited and proud to see how far along the Shell DART team has come. Lastly, we have Emerson Toloza, a UAS specialist at Occidental Petroleum. Having 7 years of aviation business experience in managerial aviation environments, Emerson is the boots on the ground when it comes to all things UAS, either onshore or offshore. Emerson has been asked to fly at all. It's great to have him here. So with that, I'll do the video lead-in. So we'll, like I said, it's all awesome to have you here once again. So next up, we have Francisco Toro that's actually going to go into the MFE 300 RTK H20 series product overview. But first, we have the world premiere of the video of the DJI Enterprise Smarter and Safer Operations featuring the Shell DART team. Like I said before, it's actually a world premiere. So actually, it'll be public probably next week, but you'll see it here first. So it's a little special treat for you guys. So actually, I'll start that, then I'll have Francisco go into the product overview. Then after that, we'll go into the panelists, which they'll turn on their webcams, and we'll have a discussion about the topics at hand. Let's dive into the product overview first.
The Shell Deer Park site is a fully integrated refinery and petrochemical facility.
We first started looking into drones in the summer of 2016. We were first of its kind where Shell employees are pilots flying drones. It's all in-house. We've already been vetted through Shell Aviation. It just streamlines the process where we're able to do everything ourselves.
When it actually came time for our instructors to put our hands on the drone, it was unbelievable just how easy it was even at that time. And even now, taking that huge leap forward to where we're at right now with the MFE 300 coming out, It's a big change, how things have evolved so quickly in that.
The things that we look at, flares, all the steam systems that assist these flare tips are kind of hard to see from ground level, especially in the daytime. So it's very useful to be able to fly up and get an overhead look to know if that pilot's lit, do we have a flame.
The new sensor will save me time as a zoom camera, a 4K camera, and a thermal camera are combined into one camera.
It's very small, meticulous things that you need to get in a shot, and the zoom capabilities, it's unbelievable. We can get right in and see it without putting any personnel in any harm. When we do flights out here, we have all the sensors turned on. We know exactly how far away we are from the equipment, exactly what we're shooting at range-wise, and it makes for a safe and easy flight that way.
By having these drones and all of the technology that comes along with it, it's a huge step in the direction of helping keep people safe. And by using the drones, we're reducing the need to put people at heights. Whatever the case calls for, the drone technology allows us to provide that delivery means.
Very excited about the release of the new drone with the extended flight time. The new sensor, multiple cameras into one, would be very beneficial to us.
It's going to make my life easier, for sure. I'm super excited about that.
This is the new M300 RTK with the Zenmuse H20 series, and it's a new standard for industrial UAV solutions. So another shot of the two gimbals along with the M300. So before we get into this, this is just a quick overview of all the products that we've launched on the enterprise side, starting off with the M100, then our first thermal gimbal camera with the XT, followed by the M200 V1, our second thermal camera with the XT2, Phantom 4 RTK for surveying, M2, the Mavic 2 Enterprise, the Matrice 200 V2, Phantom 4 multispectral, and now the M300. So over the years, we've been setting standards. In terms of product safety, we have geofencing, we have altitude limitations, flight distance warnings, aeroscope remote ID, AirSense ADS-B, obstacle sensing, and then from the product security side, we have password protection for certain drones that have internal storage. We also have US-based AWS servers, local data mode, Flight Hub on Azure, and AES 256 encryption. So these are the main topics that we're going to touch up on for the M300 and H20 series. So we will begin with the superior performance. So the new M300 RTK has a maximum flight time of 55 minutes. And when you're comparing it with the Matrice 210 RTK V2, with the XT2 and the Z30, you're gonna get an effective flight time of around 15 minutes. Whereas with the M300 RTK and the H20T, which is basically the XT2 and Z30 gimbals combined into one, now we're looking at an effective flight time of 36 minutes. So this is an increase by around 140%, and we think that this will be extremely useful for our users out in the field. This is the new fast charging battery station. So it's an all-in-one charging and storage device. You can store up to 8 TB60 batteries, 4 WB37 batteries, and it will charge 2 batteries at a time within 60 minutes or 70 minutes in the US if you have it basically down to 0%. But if you're at around 30%, it should be shorter than that. And I do want to note, because you're getting that 55-minute flight time, we're looking at a battery that has 274 watt hours. So if your missions require you to go across the country, you will have to ship these batteries. But in essence, this enables for nonstop continuous flight. So new charging station is superb. Next, we have the OcuSync Enterprise transmission system. And this allows for a maximum transmission range of 9.3 miles. We also get a 1080p video downlink, and it also supports triple video support. So what that means is, and we'll touch up on the dual controllers later, but if you have two controllers and you have cameras A, B, and C, one controller can look at A and B, the second controller can look at B and C. So that's the way that the triple video channel works. But yeah, we'll touch up on this a little bit more in a bit. And next we have the superior performance for this. So you're getting a maximum takeoff weight of 19.8 pounds with a payload capacity of up to 5.9 pounds. So here we are looking at triple gimbal support at one, so you can do up to 3 gimbals at one time. And this is great because we now offer multiple payload configurations. So at launch, we have the H20 series that is supported, the Z30, the XE2, and any third-party payload SDK gimbals that are out there right now. Great, so let's get into the H20 series. So if we're looking at the H20T, which is on the right side, you're gonna get 4 sensors in one gimbal. So we're looking at the zoom camera with a 20 megapixel sensor. This also offers 23 times hybrid optical zoom at an equivalent focal length of 31.7 up to 556.2 millimeters. There's also a laser rangefinder attached to both of these gimbals, and that is at a wavelength of 905 nanometers. And we're looking at a detection range of around 1,200 meters, which is a little over 3,000 feet. And if you need to calculate the error for that laser rangefinder, you can use the formula provided here to do so. The radiometric thermal camera is a 640 by 512 resolution sensor, and we offer this at 30 frames per second. We also have a wide camera for both of these gimbals, and that's a 12 megapixel sensor with an equivalent focal length of 24 millimeters. And here we have the new integrated UI. So I'll play this clip, and here you can see you can easily switch between wide, thermal, or zoom by just touching these buttons on the side. So again, just one more time for reference. And at the top, you'll see which camera you're looking at. So IR, zoom, or the wide camera. So that's the new integrated UI. Next, let's talk about safety and reliability. So the new M300 RTK has 6 directional sensing and positioning. So in all 6 sides, you're going to get visual and time of flight sensors. These sensors can detect at a range of up to 131 feet. And you can also customize these sensors for the stopping distance. So if you want to stop further away from an object, or you want to stop at a closer distance, you could do so. We also offer top and bottom anti-collision beacons, fully integrated, and top and bottom auxiliary lights as well. Next is the ingress protection. So the M300 RTK is IP45 rated, while the H20 series is IP44 rated. So 45 rating means that the M300 RTK will support low water jets all around and still operate correctly. And the IP44 rating means that it supports splashing of water in all directions. And this is now possible because we've redesigned the M300 so that the core components are all located internally, specifically the ESCs. Previously, they were mounted on the outside next to the motors, but now it's all built inside. And we also have a new external airflow design, and kind of a random number here, but we have the drone that can withstand at 100 millimeters in 24 hours. And this was done in a laboratory environment. But yeah, this is great now if you need to fly in tough weather. Next, we have the UAV Health Management System, or HMS for short. And this new system allows you to monitor the status of your drone. It also allows you to manage your flight data information, your flight log, your firmware, and it'll track your error records and provide troubleshooting guidelines. So if you're out in the field and you get a visual sensor error, for example, you look it up in the error records, we will provide guidelines to guide the user to check in the DJI System 2, for example, and to calibrate the sensors if needed. So we're hoping that this will reduce downtime by providing this all within the application. Next, we have redundant systems. So the M300 RTK has dual IMU, dual barometer, dual compass, and if they're utilizing the RTK system, it has dual RTK antennas plus the GNSS module. We also have an advanced dual control system, which we will touch up on again later. But what this does is it allows a second operator to take control of the aircraft if needed. And of course, we have the dual battery system, which allows the M300 RTK to utilize one battery should the other fail. And this is great so that you'll have enough time to land the drone safely. Next, we have the 3-propeller emergency landing. So I will play this clip. And here you can see that when the M300 RTK detects that one motor has failed, it will go into a control spin, allowing the pilot to go forward, back, left, or right, and also go down and land the drone safely. So here we can see that the pilot is slowly landing the drone, putting it in a safe location. And then once it's near the ground, they can manually turn off the motors and it lands. And here you can see minimal damage is done as it landed in the brushes and the gimbal is still intact. We also have the extra wide FPV camera on the M300 RTK for situational awareness. And we have the ADS-B receiver as well to notify the pilots where the airplanes or helicopters are to have ADS-B out. Next, we're going to talk about the advanced intelligence. So the main 3 items we will touch upon is the pinpoint, smart track, and location sharing. So the first one is pinpoint. I'm going to play this clip for you to see, but within the UI of the DJI Pilot app, you can pinpoint an object or location. And here you can see that it has a sort of augmented reality view in the Pilot application. That diamond shape is the pinpointed area. And this is possible because of the laser rangefinder. So if you're using the pinpoint through the UI like this, laser rangefinder is actually providing the coordinates of that object, and you can look at this pinpointed area in the maps interface. You could also pinpoint through the maps interface as well. Next, we have Smart Track. So it's very similar to Active Track, except we take it up another level. And the way that we can do this is by utilizing the laser rangefinder. So here you can see that the application can detect objects such as cars, boats, people, and you can select any of them, and it will begin tracking that object. So not only is it tracking it, but it's also providing the GPS coordinates so you can actually see the position in the map. And it'll zoom in to make sure that the object is well in frame. You could also see the GPS coordinates through the UI right here or on the map right here. So lots of different applications for this, whether it's in public safety or energy. This is something that we feel our users will take full advantage of. And finally, we have location sharing. So if the user has Flight Hub, they can share in real time a pinpoint or a smart track to the Flight Hub system. Next, we're going to talk about smart inspection. So smart inspection is made up of these 3 items. We have Waypoint 2.0, live mission recording, and AI spot check. So first, Waypoint 2.0. If anyone's familiar with Waypoint 1.0, we only supported up to 99 waypoints, which was a little bit limiting. So we've upped that to a little over 65,000 waypoints. We also support bank turns for more dynamic flight routes. And this supports POI and multiple payloads at once. We also offer multiple consecutive actions. And finally, this is open to third-party companies via the Payload SDK, the Mobile SDK, or the Onboard SDK. So now we have a new feature called live mission recording. And what this allows is it allows the pilot to, as they're flying, they can create a live mission. So here we see the drone in position A. So once the pilot takes a picture of whatever object they want to look at, it'll record the drone's position and the gimbal's orientation as well. So this is a quick way to create multiple missions at once for different structures. And then we take it to the next level. So after the pilot has finished recording their live mission, they can annotate the object of interest. So I'll play this clip. Here you can see that the pilot is annotating the area that they want to look at. And then the next time that this mission is replayed, it will take that same picture every single time. So this is great for delivering accurate and consistent results. And then we have high-res grid photo. So this is a new feature that we've added to take multiple pictures at once, like you see here. And what it does is it's taking a picture with the wide-angle camera and then the zoom as well. So depending on the zoom level that the user has selected, you can get multiple little squares like this. And then for in post, you can also look at the image, the larger image, and then you can see the little squares so that you know exactly where each subcomponent is relative to the structure. Next, we have the primary flight display, or PFD. And this is a view that you'll only get if you're looking at the first-person view camera. So this is not going to interfere with your other gimbals. But here we have the horizon and flight path vector in the middle. Next, we have the horizontal speed indicator, and we have the wind speed and wind direction on the bottom. We also have at the right the vertical obstacle indicator, the altitude indicator, and the vertical speed and absolute altitude. So I'll play this clip. Here you can see that the pilot is flying through 2 pillars, and they've set the stopping distance to the lowest value possible. So it doesn't even hit, it detects it as it's going through, but it will not stop. So just another way to kind of show off the new obstacle avoidance system. And here we have the advanced dual control. So as I mentioned before, a second operator can take control of the drone if they need to. The first operator can also lock the drone so no one can take over, or he can open it. And finally, this is great for training, right? Because you don't want someone that's flying your expensive drone for the first time to accidentally have some sort of a crash, right? So this is a great way for training to be conducted because the first operator can take control at any time if needed. We also allow for the traditional pilot and co-pilot method. So one person can be dedicated to simply flying the drone while the other is dedicated to controlling the gimbal. And this is a little bit separate from our previous drones. If anyone's familiar with the Inspire 2 or Inspire 1 series, you'll know that previously the second operator had to be connected to the first controller, and then the first controller would be connected to the drone. However, now we're looking at both controllers directly connected to the drone. And this is great for more advanced missions. For example, if we are looking at a bridge, the pilot A takes off at point A, and they're flying through the bridge. And maybe at the halfway point, the second pilot B at point B can take control of the drone and continue the mission and then land the drone at point B. So the new advanced dual control system, we're hoping increases flexibility for more advanced missions. Great, and finally we have extensibility and openness. So here we're looking at our SDKs. We have the mobile SDK, our onboard SDK, and our payload SDK. So if you want to use your favorite third-party application, you can through the mobile SDK. Our onboard SDK supports, the new onboard system supports up to the Manifold 2, so not Manifold 1, just wanted to quickly note that. And of course, this will support all payload SDK offerings. So here are some of the payload SDKs we're looking at. Most of these are still not yet certified for North America. However, if you have a Z15 Spotlight gimbal, you can use that with the M300 RTK. Same thing with the U10 laser methane detector. And the rest of these, they will be available at a later date. But yeah, just know that these are coming later this year. And here are just some quick numbers for the SDK. We have over 70,000 registered SDK developers. 20,000 active SDK developers, and over 1,000 published mobile SDK applications. And some quick specs on the M300 RTK, feel free to screenshot this. We also have this available on our website. Okay, let's talk about some of the applications, specifically energy. So a few years ago now, we visited Valmont and got a lot of valuable feedback for the M200 series for inspection. And we had the chance to beta test this with them, and they were extremely happy with the M300 RTK and H20T because it just allows for more efficient flights, and it allows them to be more productive. So the main things that they really liked about these two systems is, first of all, they were extremely ecstatic about the new 20 megapixel sensor. Previously, they were using the Z30, and that's 10 times the megapixels. Before we were looking at 2, now we have 20 megapixels. So this is great for post-analysis. They didn't have to rely on the 2 megapixel sensor anymore. With the new one, they could look at much more detail at their structures. So they could look at for cracks or any other problems that they have. But yeah, so they were extremely happy with that. They were extremely happy with the high-res grid photo feature as well. And the new system has so the batteries can be hot swappable, right? So you don't have to turn off the drone anymore. And especially if you're utilizing the RTK system, you'll know if you land the drone, you have to turn it off. It can take a few minutes to regain that RTK signal. So by not having to turn off the drone, it allows them to quickly continue their missions. And finally, we have AI spot check, which of course they really like because they can get the same data over and over again. So finally, the last thing I want to touch up on is the DJI maintenance service plan. So we have 3 different tiers. We have the basic plan, the standard plan, and the premium plan. So this could be done every 6 months or 200 hours of flight time. And again, another 6 months or 12 months later, or if you have 400 hours of flight time, same thing for 18 months and 600 hours of flight time. So the basic plan provides a deep cleaning and calibration. Standard plan provides the same thing, plus worn out parts will be replaced. And the premium plan provides all of the aforementioned items, plus core components would be replaced. So that's pretty much it on my side. I'll hand it over to Cody.
Get back in here. Thanks, Francisco. That was awesome. Like I said, lots of good information and very impressed with the Matrice 300 as well as H20 series and what it can do. And looking forward to the application use going forward. But I want to go to the topics of discussion as we jump into the panel. So kind of do a overall overview of them. Then we're going to go into one by one and direct it towards the panelists and get their insight on them. So I'll go through them. Then after I go through these, I'll have the panelists please turn on your webcams after I go through these, and we'll begin. But yeah, first we're going to start into the data information management. Then we're going to lead the facilities planning and maintenance, risk management and decision making, safety, health, cost efficiency, productivity gains, and inspection and predictive maintenance. So 6 topics that we're going to hit on today. So if I can have you guys turn on those webcams and your mics. There you go. Appreciate it. So as we jump in this, I am going to direct, for the sake of time and organization, I'm going to direct it towards a panelist. Like I said, people are here to listen to all of you guys. So if you feel like you need to say something or jump in, feel free to. Like I said, there's an open panel. But all right, let's dive into it. Let's begin. So first, we're going to go ahead and hit on the data information management. One second, turn that over. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So one of the most important part of the process is data collection, right? That's the real end value here. Let's start with Jason. I'm going to start with you, all right? How does one make sure the quality of the data is consistent every time? And how do you see the 300 helping kind of ensure that?
Yeah, so Repeatability is the most important part of performing a remote visual inspection.
Yeah.
And when monitoring an asset for corrosion, it's an essential variable to capture the same images every time you perform this inspection. So by utilizing the live mission recording and the AI spot check function, you have the capability to record the drone location, the angle and zoom level of the H20T for each point of interest. What this means is that when we go back to document corrosion rates on the same asset 3 months later, 6 months later, you can recall that previous recorded flight, execute it autonomously while still having the capability of taking full control of the drone at any time and adding more waypoints or points of interest. The functions that really have come in helpful for us and our clients, the pinpoint smart track functions, very useful tools. Pinpoint allows you to record the coordinates and location of a point of interest, and that smart track allows you to keep a specific component, on an asset, a valve, a gauge, whatever that might be in the camera view. So you can capture different angles of that component, and that's helpful from RGB and infrared.
Awesome. Thank you. I absolutely agree. Repeatability is everything, right, for consistent data sets. And what's great about the Matrice 300, it's a much smarter drone now, which is great for be able to do that. You have the options to be able to do that with the new software and smart functions. Thanks for that, Jason. Appreciate it. With that, let's go into Cynthia. What's your opinion on drone technology and related data analysis software for moving from more of an infancy to more of a maturity stage?
Sure, Cody. So, over the past few years, as we see kind of drones becoming more prevalent in the enterprise space, one of the interesting things that we've seen, or that I've seen in working with a lot of our energy customers, is there's this transition point where a lot of the largest energy companies out there are going from these smaller pilot programs of maybe 5 or 10 drones, and they're really scaling their operations out to 50, 60, even over 100 drones, right? And one of the side effects of that is at some point these organizations start experiencing almost a level of data paralysis, right? Because you have dozens of pilots who are flying dozens of drones and collecting data, day in, day out, week in, week out, and you have all these great data sets. But at the end of the day, all that data is only as good as what you're able to extract from it and what you're able to act off of it for, right? So we're seeing this shift where on the software side or on the solution side, there's a need to help process that data better, to be able to organize that data better, to sort of take the tediousness out of trying to extract, what exactly is the actionable insight there, right? And similar, just like what Jason said about the repeatability, that's a huge component, because when you're trying to go out and do inspections, a lot of times we see our customers, every team that goes out there to fly a certain asset might do it a little differently. And then instead of taking 1 or 2 photos that give you exactly what you need to see for an inspection, you might end up taking 10, 20, or 100 photos from all these different angles, trying to just make sure that you get enough information so that when you get back to the office, your subject matter expert or engineering team can look through all those hundreds of photos and be able to figure out that one piece that they need to actually act off of, right? Whereas, like what Jason said, in terms of repeatability, we're seeing, if we're able to create software that can help you identify exactly what your object of interest is and exactly what you need to hone in on, you can cut down that amount of data you're collecting significantly while not sacrificing the actual value of that data. And across the board, we see a lot of our other developers in our ecosystem coming out with great new iterations of solutions that will help with processing that data better, from AI solutions to better processing tools.
Great, awesome. Thank you for that, Cynthia. Absolutely, what you said was spot on. With that, let me jump back to Jason. Coming from an inspection background, how important is the deliverable report that discusses, that shows the process of the inspection, identified problems, the remedial measures? How important that is in the field?
Yeah, so connecting today's drone and sensor technology to data analytic software and being able to immediately report is critical to the growth of the industry, right? So going from data acquisition to a deliverable with useful information allows end users to make decisions faster. This has an immediate impact on safety, the environment, and asset management. So with DJI's products, it's made it easier to gather data at elevation by utilizing the new AI spot check, pinpoint, smart track, high-res grid functions on the M300. We get repeatability and localization when identifying points of interest during inspections. So we get a combination of the new technology along with the software and the upgrades in the software to be able to actually focus in on the use cases and go from that acquisition piece to usable, digestible data and to make fast decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what Cynthia was touching on. It's one thing where you're getting all these data sets, but how is this going to be processed, and how is this going to actually be, processed to the field where it actually makes sense to someone who needs to actually fix that stuff or actually go out there and examine the issue? And you touched right on that, and I appreciate that. So yeah, data and information management is key to all this. Hardware is one thing. It's great to have all these features, but if you're not getting the right data sets, you're not getting the right information and managing that correctly, then it's really useless. I mean, you just have a bunch of just images thrown at you, then just you're overwhelmed. But yeah, you might have anything else to touch on this?
Just wanted to add something, Cody, especially with the ADS-B out, a lot of people in the GA, as far as FAA, being a first-time, pilot myself, a lot of people get worried with drones and they say, hey, drones are bad. Drones are good. So implementing the ADS-B technology into the drone and then presenting this to actual aviators, it kind of satisfies them a tad bit. So, because I've heard of conversations before always neglecting the drone. So
I appreciate it. Thanks, Emerson. With that, I'll go ahead and move on to the next topic. If anyone else wants to add anything on the data side, but yeah, absolutely great information. I appreciate that. So we'll move on to the next topic of discussion on the facilities and planning and maintenance. I'm going to target the first one back to you, Emerson. So can you explain how data capture and the processing can allow timely, informed decisions to be made? I know that you do a lot of assets on the field. Oxy obviously has a lot of assets. Can you just go into that, how the data capture and the processing can allow the timeliness of it? Or I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect, thanks.
So currently we have about 50 to 57 pilots out in the field. So when a project gets pushed out, either one of our fleet pilots get on it or a specialized pilot like myself will get on it. So capturing that data and then turning it back around to the actual engineer or who requested it is essential. So we as a team push that data through, and then the turnaround would be in less than probably a day or two. So collecting that data is essential. One of the things I also wanted to touch on is our inventory yards. What do we have out there? Do we need to buy that again? So with the panos, the DJI Mavic 2, it's small but packs a punch, I always say. We could do those panos out there and then push it out to our web maps and then expose that to the whole company.
Awesome. So yeah, from a quantitative side though,
it's a lot of information to collect, but just like you said, what's the use of it if you don't know what to extract out of it?
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. Good to hear from that. John, to turn around on you. So I know for a fact you've been around for a lot of turnarounds, right? So can you explain the benefits of using the drones in the preparation phase for the turnaround project?
Yeah, so using a drone helps the turnaround planners, to get an aerial view of where they want to set up their logistics areas, their laydown yards, and like Emerson just mentioned, their inventory yards. previously when they do pre-planning, you know, they have something going on a pipe rack, they're going to have to set up several different sets of scaffold to get the right angle that they want. Now we can, you know, do some 4K video with the drone, you know, do a whole 360 video. They can see exactly what they're trying to get to, a certain valve, you know, room for a new pipe, and they're able to set up their cranes, their scaffolding, and stuff like that more efficiently.
Gotcha. So quite a bit of use. I know that you guys are venturing more and more stuff prepping for the turnaround. So that's good to hear. For facilities planning maintenance, anyone else have anything to add in from your side in the field, from planning or maintenance side?
You know, so for us too, you know, we have weekly missions, we have annual stuff, you know, weekly stuff on flying floating roofs. We do that every Monday. Turn that video over to the maintenance and the logistics groups. They meet on Tuesday and they're able to go forward there with their plannings of any issues that they see. You know, annual inspections of flare tips, fin fans, stuff like that. You know, a feature of the new drone that's already been mentioned, but I'll mention it again, the AI spot check, to get that same picture over and over and over and not just try to estimate where did I take this from last time by looking at some previous pictures, images, videos. You know, that's going to be make everything a lot more efficient.
Yeah, I just want to touch on that, John. Great point on that. One of our biggest thing is handing that data over to the engineers and saying, all right, is it good? Is it bad? So that's definitely going to help out tremendously. Getting engineers and saying, all right, this is the mission, this is good. So then I can push that mission over again and just take that picture over and over and over again, and not have to go out to the field, especially when you have to travel out to the Gulf of Mexico. So
yeah. And yeah, to go back to that, especially y'all go back to AI project, it's such a great feature. It goes all back to repeatability, like Jason was saying prior. It's just if you have something where you can save the waypoints and execute every single time, somewhat great degree, and the RTK is only going to elevate that from the accuracy level. But yeah, it all comes back to that. It's just a great tool from all sites, whether it be planning on the inspection. It goes back to be able to the frequency of be able to do that project over and over again at a consistency you need it at. But absolutely, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you for the feedback. So with that, I'm going to move on to the risk management decision making. So let's, John, back to you. I don't want to pick on you too much, but coming from the securities and safeties background, can you elaborate on how the use of drones in your current operations effectively monitor infrastructure and facilities while minimizing risk to personnel?
Yep. So, you know, one of the things that we really jumped on and pushed the message out 4 years ago when we started our program is, you know, drones have changed the game when working at heights. So anytime you can put a drone up in the air, it's more safer by keeping the operator, the engineers, whoever's wanting to do the project planning personnel, keep them on the ground, put the drone up in the air. You know, the risk is lowered by the human being on the ground, the equipment being up in the air. You can't beat a 4K video where, you know, you can go back to your desk and review that 4K video of a piece of equipment 360 around, all the way around, and, you know, look at it over and over and over. You know, then the bonus part of that, yes, the biggest part is safety, but the bonus, because it's more cost effective, where you're not renting a crane, you're not setting up scaffold that's going to be up there for months and months before it's tore back down. And, you know, that's the biggest part, the greatest part about the risk of the drone, using a drone besides putting a person up in a crane in a basket to do a job a drone can do.
Yeah, I can probably go back to you as well from a safety standpoint, minimizing risk in the field, Emerson. Do you guys see a lot of utilization in that in West Texas assets or offshore assets?
definitely offshore. You shut a flare down, you're losing production. So minimizing that is key. When I go out to the Gulf of Mexico, I do the inspections and everybody's hovering around me and so interested, but they always tell me, hey, can you take a look at this? And I mean, normally you would have to schedule, and on top of that, you would have to shut down the production. So it's definitely a win-win situation, and putting somebody's life at risk.
Absolutely, absolutely. Jumping into more of the safety platforms which help mitigate risk. Cynthia, we know DJI always strives to improve safety on the platforms, especially in the enterprise level. How do you see the new safety features on the Matrice 300 help mitigate those risks?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, similar to what John and Emerson spoke about on how drone technology is so great for reducing, these at-risk man hours and being able to minimize the risk to personnel because they're able to keep their boots on the ground instead of, up in scaffolding or anything like that. When we look at the new safety features of the M300, it's actually helping to make operations even safer and more intuitive, right? So that you're able to scale out drone operations even more. So you're able to take pilots who are maybe not as experienced as perhaps our other panelists on here, like John and Emerson, but who are maybe part-time pilots, right? Who have a primary role as like a flare stack inspectors. I mean, these are the subject matter experts for a specific asset. They're part-time pilots, but because we are putting a tool in their hands that has these additional safety features, whether it's more redundancy, whether it's having better obstacle avoidance or visibility, or being able to have a laser rangefinder so they know exactly how far away they are from what they're trying to inspect. All of that helps so that these pilots feel more comfortable and there's less risk when they go out there and try to fly a mission. One of the things I love most about the M300 coming out at this time too is that it's less of a tool, and it's kind of making this evolution into being not just a tool you use out in the field, but really a partner, right? In a sense that it's telling you how far away you're flying from something. It's giving you these alerts when it is able to detect anything in the airspace or anything within your flight path that's potentially a hazard, right? And this is especially important, I think, these days because John touched upon this earlier about how, anytime you're doing these inspections or you're doing any sort of maintenance, sometimes it involves having a multi-man crew out there. First of all, at height, and there's multiple, crews that are needed for building scaffolding and then getting up on a scaffolding and then doing those inspections. But with the drone, you really only need maybe 2 people, right? You need a much smaller crew, and we can't avoid discussing the fact that we're going through this pandemic right now, and one of the main things with COVID is you need to try to minimize the amount of time you spend around other people. So if you have to choose between a 20-person or more crew, building up scaffolding and working in close proximity for weeks at a time to inspect something, but instead if you're able to equip 2 or 3 men on your team to take out the M300 and be able to utilize all the great safety features on it to conduct that same inspection, you're not only reducing those at-risk man hours from a height perspective, but also purely from a pandemic or health perspective.
Absolutely.
Just to add a little bit more on that. One of our biggest things is emergency response plans. So having drones part of a company and their emergency response plan. Hey, listen, we got 3 drones out in West Texas, or we got 2 drones out in the Gulf of Mexico. Well, there's a spill. How could we apply that? Well, let's get the drone up, take pictures, and let's send it back to base and let's review that data. So definitely, it's helping the industry a lot, putting those drones in full effect and put into emergency response plans.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Anything else you might want to add on the subject? We're about to lead into something that's relatively close to it, because it kind of in conjunction of both. But we'll go ahead and move on to that. But absolutely great feedback. Sorry, I overclicked here. It seems like one is off here. I'm going to jump into it. Sorry about that, guys. It's actually safety and health. Seems to be not on a slide, but we'll jump into safety. Obviously, we went through a lot of safety functions. Obviously, have to do close with risk management. But let's go into Jason. Why are standards so important in the facilitation of drone inspections in the field? I'll ask you that.
Yeah, so setting a standard and for implementing a drone program, you know, in the industrial industry, flying in the plants, whether it be petrochemical or the energy sector. It helps support the safe use of drones, and helps us address ongoing training to keep pilots qualified, you know, month to month. So yeah, the setting those standards, and that's something that we have already in place for other inspection methods that we deploy in the field. So getting there and having and implementing standards or guidelines to writing your drone program and ongoing training will be crucial to scaling your drone program and plugging in new pilots, new sensors, new technology, and then again, being able to fully maximize the capability of the drones.
Absolutely, absolutely. John, being the chief pilot at, you know, at one of Shell's largest plants, can you discuss the importance of compliance standards, regulatory requirements, and security SOPs?
Yeah, so you know, we kind of pride ourselves that we brought our security department, our security safety department, operations, our electrical engineering folks, brought them all together when we developed our SOPs in the beginning. Flying in this environment out here, not only the electrical classified areas, but the high magnetic and electrical interference areas out here that are all over the place. You know, we want to rely on our SOPs and risk management and decision making to make sure that our pilots are not only monitoring, you know, how many satellites they have, how strong is the radio strength, but they recognize that, okay, if I'm getting too close to this big piece of metal, you know, what's going to happen, you know, to my drone? With the new 300, you know, has the, you know, 210, you know, version 1 and version 2, all the enterprise series through DJI with the redundant systems. It made it a lot easier than like where we started off with the Phantom 4 and Inspire 1 is how we started off 4 years ago. And, you know, we had immediate problems. And that was why the interference. So be able to recognize your risk and make decisions on how to mitigate those risks, and standard SOPs that you're doing the same procedure over and over and over, not skipping a step when you go to put these drones up in the air, just to ensure that it goes up and it comes back down in the same condition. It's very important.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I want to hit a little bit back onto, I think Jason mentioned a little bit, how do the current operations and standards, how would you place them to avoid non-qualified players to, you know, affect specific UAS involved business sectors? How do we go about that to create the standards to do that? So essentially, how do we create the standards where we don't necessarily let hobbyists do what I think more of a qualified inspectors should be able to do? Jason, can you touch a little bit on that?
Yeah, so the most important part about performing an inspection is making sure you have a qualified person, right? So whether that's a thermographer, a level 1, you know, a level 2 VT guy, you know, that's the most important part when it comes to deciding what information you want to gather, the images you want to take, you know, and what the environmental impact is on the asset, which plays a big role from where we're at in Houston, Texas to you know, the East Coast to the Midwest. The environmental impact changes everywhere. So having a qualified person who understands what they're looking at, specific to the asset, and then as far as, again, implementing standard operating procedures for your drone program, helps to set a standard on what you want your pilots to be qualified to be able to handle. Like John said, we deal with electrical interference, magnetic interference in these plants, and you need to know how to deal with that. And so the M300 with its you know, redundant systems built in, the RTK, having that high megapixel zoom camera helps us to deal with that environmental impact and get close shots, nice detailed shots from the drone.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for the insight on that. Yeah, thank you both, John and Jason. That was spot on. But let's dive into a little bit more. And we talked a little bit we talked about, I guess, time saving, which time can be cost for sure. But Emerson, let's go back on. I know you guys are doing very cool projects, involving UAS all over. Can you share some insight on how monitoring or inspecting those assets with the DJI products are currently helping costs in current operations?
Yeah, again, biggest thing for us is the flare inspections, especially in the Gulf of Mexico. So to give you an example, they have scheduled flare inspections. So I would go out there, and it's still running, flare's still going. I would go up there, make 360 shots of the whole flare from the bottom of the boom all the way to the flare tip. Alongside with that, other engineers are going to be looking at that data and saying, hey, let's schedule this. This can hold off for X amount of months. Let's work on this one. So definitely teaming up with the right engineers and having the right people look at that data. So it just comes down to again, having that data being collected right and then showing it to the right people.
Yeah, definitely can help down, especially with, as you said before, if you shut down production, that's going to be a big cost. So going back to that as well.
Yeah. Another thing that we have is power lines is one of the biggest ones that yesterday I got to team up with a power line engineers or electrical engineers, teamed up with those guys, and we were doing we were looking at the hot zones or substations. So if any of the wires were getting hot, and we're working with an M210, so I could just imagine what an M300, what the capabilities are, and looking at what spots are hot and what are they looking for. I mean, they're the leads on that, so they would be taking a look at that. But I'm pretty excited.
We did some testing behind my office for the electrical. So
yeah, I did. That was pretty good.
Got to see. Yeah, absolutely. How are you guys currently doing those inspections? Are you guys doing them? We talked a little bit about this, but how are the electrical engineers currently doing inspections?
So they're flying pretty much the power line. Somebody is driving, and the passenger would be actual doing the flying part. Always keeping the drone ahead of you, a couple of yards ahead of you, and just going down the power line, taking imagery, 90-degree shot, oblique shot. So, and then also switching from the thermal back to a Z30.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be a huge, not only time, but cost saving. I guess what you guys were originally doing was something more manual, but absolutely, what I really want to get into is, goes back to the spot check with the electrical line. That's really going to cut you that time.
Yeah, and like I said, if that's being recorded, I mean, hand over the mission over and over and over to that same line. And then you can kind of see the difference of what's going on. So.
Absolutely.
Excited.
Going back to Jason, I know you're a guy who likes to soak up a lot of knowledge. I know you as a guy who studies a lot, and you know a lot about UAS industry from self-knowledge and us hitting being boots on the ground. Can you share your thoughts on how drone capture data is helping the industry as a whole, and what trends are you seeing that help improve operations and safety?
Yeah, so utilizing drone technology has made monitoring assets faster, safer, repeatable. Doing visual inspection from scaffolding, rope access, or utilizing a crane is expensive and poses a lot of safety challenges. So using drones to perform visual inspections increases frequency of inspections, which can assist in avoiding unscheduled shutdowns. And basically the ROI is quantifiable after the first use, right? Not having to spend the money on the scaffolding. Like Cynthia said, bringing in 20, 30 scaffolding guys in this day and age just doesn't seem, like something you want to do, you want to avoid. So being able to put that drone up in the air real quick, do your remote visual inspection, take a look at where you actually would have to potentially build scaffolding to do NDE or thickness readings or whatever. And what we call tactical scaffolding at that point, now we're cutting down on the man hours, we're cutting down on the cost of building a complete scaffolding, let's say around a distillation column or something of that nature. We're really just focusing on the areas where we actually have to pull quantifiable data off of the asset. So
absolutely. Thanks for the insight on that. To move it on, anybody else have anything to add? I'm gonna move it on a little bit. I know we have a soft two, but I'm gonna keep moving it a little bit. Let's go ahead and jump into kind of the bread and butter of it all, the inspection and predictive maintenance on this. So John and Emerson, where are you currently seeing UAS equipment perform routine inspections? I know you touched a little bit on the electrical grids. Can you share some insight on how that's currently detecting anomalies and how you're getting that information? I'll start with Emerson. Maybe John can add in afterwards.
Sure. I'm going to give a couple power lines, flare inspections in Gulf of Mexico, West Texas. We also fracking sites and then inventory yards and pipelines, the future of it beyond the line of sight. So that's pretty much the points I wanted to touch on. Those are things that we're seeing repetitive, besides the pipelines yet, but inventory yards and fracking sites. With fracking sites, the before, during, and after process, how does the land look before with all the equipment on it, and then the after effect of what it left behind.
And John, I know for your anomalies, you guys are doing a lot of the storage tank runs on Monday. Can you guys just tell me kind of anomalies that maybe you're getting for your guys or picking up for your teams that you submit back the information to?
Yeah, so, especially on the floating roofs, we're looking for, like the last 3-4 days, we've had heavy rain, so we're making sure there's not water being pooled on the roof, any product, any of the socks for the legs haven't been blown off or anything like that, any pontoon hatches that are happen to come loose or anything like that. And usually we'll catch that right off the bat so we can immediately turn around and let the outside operators know, hey, this is what we found. But then the experts have that second lens look, the very next day. And not just the, like it's already been mentioned by Emerson, the flare tips and the fin fans and all the other good stuff, but it's the kind of the abnormal situation, the steam leaks, hey, there's something wrong with this analyzer. Can you put a drone up there real quick and see what you see as a reading on there? It's endless. The emergency response stuff, doing the first 360 of a pipeline leak, a fire, or anything like that, just to get the information back to the command. That make sure they have their assets being set up in the right spots and stuff like that. And then the continuation of that is their assets being affected? Are they aiming the water or the foam in the right spots? And something that we really haven't mentioned on, but another really important thing is live streaming that back to your EOC or your incident command, or for my case or Emerson's case, anyone in the company that wants to see that can get live information, live updates, and not relying on video. That's even 30 minutes in a dynamic situation like that. 30 minutes is a long time. When they can get live information from a live stream, from a video, drone up in the air, giving them an aerial view of the situation, and then you got your experts that aren't here locally, giving their input, while they're traveling or whatnot. The live stream, another really important thing, the aspect of the drone brings back.
Yeah, awesome, man.
100% agree.
You presented that information, and I mean, just the fires that you've helped support, and just that type of information where the live stream really comes in. It's absolutely fantastic what actually the unit can prove in action on site. An application used to see it firsthand during an incident is another thing capable from us talking about it. All of you guys have been there, seen it, and been a part of it. It's absolutely crazy. But to kind of move on to a little bit, this is kind of for everyone, but I'll start with Jason. where do you think the UAS industry can better improve on consistent data sets for inspection and predictive maintenance in the future? What would you like to see, and where do you think they could better be improved on? Oh, Jason,
I think Jason's on mute.
Hey, sorry about that.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, excuse me. So, adding more plug and play sensors, providing, really dialing in on those standards for SOPs and ongoing training programs, really diving into and focusing on, specific use cases, seal inspections on floating roof tanks, that type of stuff, and simplifying those workflows. So again, dialing in on the use case, asset specific, executing the inspection, utilizing the new tools with the M300, the AI spot check, the pinpoint, the smart track, that super high res grid, and then getting that data back into some analyzing software, and then getting to some quantifiable, digestible information so decisions can be made fast. Adding on to all of that is just going to make it, it's going to make the UAS programs grow in these facilities, and again, repeatability, right? So.
Anything else, John? Anything you want to see in the industry to help better with the data analytics?
Yeah. So just to continue, let's just take the Z30 comparison to the H20. The zoom capability of the H20 just blows away the Z30. And when the Z30 came out, you'd say, I myself, said, hey, the Z30 is our sensor and it's what we rely on. It's our bread and butter. Now this H20 has come out, and I have an example of it for my team where, sitting in my truck, reading my little medical bracelet here with the zoom, and you can go that full 200 digital time zoom, and you're reading this bracelet crystal clear of exactly what it says. And you flip back to the wide angle, and if you wanted to, I have my FRCs on, you couldn't read what my patch said if you've even tried. And, so just the continual upgrade of the technology where it's finally getting smaller. The digital zoom, when you go into digital zoom, you're not looking at a pixelized, shaky picture. You're actually looking at a quality HD picture. The continual of the sensors getting smaller. 2-3 years ago, your smallest OGI camera would only go on a 600. Now there's things that's coming out, for the 210, the 300 for OGI and stuff like that. So that's what, besides the FAA, getting them to mature with this, and but that's a whole nother webinar for another day. But yeah, just the continual upgrades of the sensors, and I just really like the way they're going, the direction they're going.
Awesome. Same question for you, Emerson or Cynthia, or maybe not Cynthia, too much to give away from DJI, but at least Emerson. Anything that you'd like to see?
I just tagging along with the rest of the guys, and consistency when it comes down to the same, we were having trouble just getting the right data and saying, hey, this picture looks right, this picture doesn't look right. All right, so what do you guys want? Well, with this point spot check and mission tracking, it's going to make everything so much a breeze. Just having the same points, the same coordinates, and when I go on the FLIR stack, I just hit that button. It's going to take the consistency pictures. I can just be like, here you go, guys. Here's your pictures. Opposed to me going back out to the field and taking the pictures again for the same site. So.
Absolutely. And to jump back on John before we wrap up, you go on LinkedAll's LinkedIn. Emerson and I actually did a transformer in the back of our office, and we could see the numbers off of serial numbers off the sticker inside. It was very, very hard to see, and something that Z30 necessarily couldn't do. It'd be too fuzzy. But the H20 just killed it. So it's been very, very impressive. So I agree with you, John. It's a very, very, very impressive camera sensor overall. But before we wrap up, guys, anything that you want to throw in there? Anything to add?
Yeah, I'll add something. I think in terms of what we want to see next, it's what we've been seeing this past year, right? In terms of just all the great interactions that we see throughout the industry. Francisco, who presented on M300 earlier, Francisco and myself, back when we were allowed to, we would go out and do a lot of these site visits, with our key utility customers and our key oil and gas customers. And when we look at the M300 today, that very much is the product of a lot of the great interactions and feedback that we've gotten, right? So being able to keep up this cadence of collaboration and feedback, even during these kind of quarantine times, this is exactly what we want to see throughout the industry, so that we are better able to deliver those tools with the right features into the hands of those who are actually able to leverage it for their workflows.
And just to add a little something on that, I just joined this about a year ago, and it blows my mind that each and every single day how much technology, how much information is being put out there for the UAS industry. And within the industry myself, or in the company myself, collaborating with different business units and saying, hey, we have this asset, we can use this. They're like, wow, we can read, you can tell me I can read that? I'm like, yeah, man, let me show you. And then I push and they're just blown away. So really positive feedback from within my company. So that's a good thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And great feedback, guys. I really do appreciate everything. And you guys, I know, like I said, John was on vacation. I asked John mid-vacation, hey, could you help out? I know Emerson and Jason are really busy. Jason, but I appreciate you guys coming out. Cynthia, awesome. Francisco, awesome. So yeah, just want to thank everyone and panelists again for giving us the great insight for today. And it's very rare to try to get them all in one place, and it's great. Hopefully next time we'll all be in person, maybe at a trade show, trade conference, maybe do this in person. But yeah, so if you have any questions, let me move on. I'm sorry, guys, we're just running over too much. I'll try to get to everyone's questions on here. But if you have any questions, just directly send it to sales@linkedall.com for any sales inquiries or questions. We'll get them answered there. I have a team dedicated for that. But I wanted to just thank everyone again just for coming out and helping us with this today. But anything before we sign off? You're good?
Keep flying.
Keep flying. All right, guys. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Later, John. Bye, Jason.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Take care, everyone.
Yeah, take care. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.